Hello, friends of the channel, Orientación vocacional y estudios universitarios. Today, we're going to talk about studying communication. And I have the great honor to interview one of my dearest professors of all time in my formation as a communicator and as a journalist. We go way back when she taught me at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina in 2012. So it's been 8 years. And I'm talking about Nina Jo Moore, Dr. Nina Jo Moore. Has been professor at Appalachian State University since 1986. She holds a PhD from the University of Maryland, 1987, and a master's degree from the University of Georgia in 1982, and a bachelor from the University of South Florida in 1973. I took 2 courses with her, intercultural communication and also nonverbal communication, where she published a great book called Nonverbal Communication Studies and Applications. And she said that there's been many editions, and I have the 5th apparently, but she's going to tell us more about this. Now she has released the 7th edition. Nina Jo Moore, Dr. Moore, welcome to the channel. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Sergio. It was great pleasure to have you in class. You're always one of the great participators in class, so it's good to see you again.
Thank you very much. I loved your classes. You have a great vibe and a great energy, and I seriously, I love to be there, and I woke up every morning, wanting to be there in the class, participating and listening to you. Every word you say was like it's an imprint in myself now. So every time I explain things to the audience, I remember things that I learned from here, your book, and your classes. So I'm really grateful for you, for your, great vibe. As I said before, being here today is an honor for me, and for your ex-students that will probably see this interview.
Thanks.
So, Nina, can I call you Nina or Nina? How is it better?
Well, I say it Nina, but people who come from a Latino background, Spanish-speaking countries would say Nina. So I always say I answer to either or either.
All right.
But
Nina.
Nina is fine. Nina is, I say it Nina, but it's fine.
Nina. Okay, Nina is fine. Okay, Nina, what is to study communication? What is the difference between studying media, journalism, or interpersonal communication, or are they all part of the same field?
Good question. They have their roots in the same discipline, but they are very different. We look at them separately as the mass communication courses, and then human communication, which we separate the human communication area into both public address, which is public speaking, those types of things, and then interpersonal communication. The thing is, with the mass communication area, they have the basis in the human communication area, but they take it out into the technical area. So in our case, our majors, we have a broadcasting major, we have a journalism major, we have an advertising major, and we have a public relations major that are all in the mass communication field. And then we also have the communication studies major, which is the human communication skills, the more social communication skills, interpersonal communication skills. But you can't divorce them, though, Sergio. They tie together because the basis of all of those things, all right, journalism, you talk about being, having a background in journalism. You have to have good human communication skills to do that, because when you're going to write an article, it's not just writing the article, it's interviewing people, it's being able to do research and find out what you need to talk about. So all of the majors have, they cross over there into good communication skills. Public relations, for example, is often considered a mass communication area. public relations professionals have to have good human communication skills because they're dealing with companies. There are, right now, for example, with the pandemic, a lot of what's going to happen, especially with the discovery or the development of the new vaccines, there's going to be a huge PR issue there, and they're going to be dealing with humans. So a lot of the courses that the PR majors take are the same courses that our communication studies students take. Now, communication studies is more 100% of, not 100%, I'd say probably 75% of interpersonal type communication skills. But we allow, for example, our majors to take some of the exact same courses that the PR folks do, or the journalism folks do. We find that we have a number of students that double major in our department because they want to have some of the mass communication skills, but they also want to have some of the human communication skills. So I don't think that, you can't say that one or the other is not part of the same field, because in order to be a good technical communicator, broadcasting, journalism, advertising, PR, you have to have good human communication skills. I will tell you that the folks that major in just straight communication studies, which are the human communication skills area, they are more likely to go into work into positions, into their careers, doing work where they're working with other human beings, such as management or human resources or personnel, sales. A lot of them go to law school and become lawyers, and then a lot go to graduate school to become teachers of communication. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yes, perfectly. And before going to your background as a professor, I would like to ask you about the next thing, because I am a psychologist right now, and in a few months I will be also a journalist, and I have a great interest in this next question. What is the relationship between the field of communication and the field of psychology? What is the relationship that you see in both fields of knowledge?
They're aligned. They go hand in hand. Some say they're closely aligned. Each area wants to have their own discipline. So communication people are careful about saying, well, psychology, we're really part of psychology, because they don't want to be in the psychology department. But you don't communicate with other people without thinking about the psychology of it. So they're very, very closely aligned. And in fact, a lot of the things that we teach in the communication classes, like the ones that you took, intercultural communication, nonverbal communication, interpersonal communication, small group communication, those all deal with psychology. All right. You can't communicate without aspects of psychology, and you can't pay attention to psychology and those theories without thinking about the communication that comes from that. So they are extremely closely aligned. When you go into the field, you mentioned you're going to have a background, you're going to have your degree in psychology and those kinds of things. When you start working as a psychologist, you have to pay attention to communication skills. So they can't be divorced. They have to go hand in hand. They are united forever.
Is there because I've been studying this I'm preparing a thesis for journalism right now, and it's about how psychology studies communication and how communication studies communication, for the same, like what is the, because there are different focuses in both disciplines. For example, social psychologists tend to study communication as a process of interpersonal communication, and also in group communication. But people in journalism in Chile, or in we say comunicación social, or it would be communication studies, tend to study communication as a more, we say macro process, a bigger process between masses, between radio, TV, internet, and different media. And so the focuses are quite different in the sense of it's a sort of like a microsocial and macrosocial. So
Right.
we say here that communication studies would be more likely to be more in like a sociology field than in a psychological field, because psychology studies the individual, is more microsocial, and then the other is bigger. You know, what do you
Right.
think about this observation?
Well, I mean, that takes us back to your first question, right?
Mhm.
Because what you're talking about with the macro is what we refer to as mass communication.
Mhm.
So, but you don't have mass communication without paying attention to the micro communication,
Mhm.
right? So it's very much, it's intertwined. You can't divorce it. Back to they go together. And when you talk in terms of theories that exist, if we go back historically, we go back to ancient Greece, right? And that's where we go when you take a public speaking class at any university. That's where they go back to, is ancient Greece. Well, they were more concerned with the public, right? Not the mass public, such as we do with mass comm issues, but with the public, with the audience that was in front of them. And of course, in those days, they would go to the town square and they would make speeches in the town square. And a good deal of those speeches were about land ownership and laws that were being passed. So we begin with really a more mass approach, which we refer to as public address. We teach it as public speaking. All right. And so you get this mass of people who are right in front of you, as opposed to what we do now with mass comm, because we're so technologically bound. That's like you and I, when we can't get the computer to do what we do, we go to our little computer, which is our cell phone.
Yeah.
So communication, but you and I still have to be able to talk and carry on conversation and go back and forth because you're asking me questions. So the human part of that communication, just because we're using a mass communication channel, we call it, all right, we we can't neglect the human part of it. And see, my area is the human part of it. My master's degree is in, and I'll talk more about that later, but is in more of the public address area. But my PhD is more in the human, interpersonal, social.
Mhm.
I almost said it in Spanish for you.
No problem. If you want to speak Spanish,
Yeah, well, I only speak a little. I can
yeah,
say sí.
you
I
have
can
to.
say no. Gracias.
Gracias, gracias. Nina, it would be great to listen about your career path. Can you tell us about your career path? How did you end up being a professor in Appalachian State University? I have the understanding that you have been there since 1986, so it's 34 years ago. Why did you choose this field of knowledge?
That's a good question. I started out, I lived in Miami. I grew up in Miami, and I took a public speaking class at Miami-Dade Community College. It was junior college in those days. And I loved it. I took this public speaking class. It was great. I didn't do great in it. I mean, I think I got a B or a C. And I was like, but I kind of liked it. But I always liked English. So I'm transferred after a year of community college and went to University of South Florida. And when I got there, they said, what do you want to major in? I said, I think I want to be an English teacher. So they said, oh, there are too many people. This is back in 1970. There are too many people who want to be English teachers at this point in time. Put something with it so that you'll make yourself more saleable. You'll be able to find a job better. So I said, okay, I liked public speaking. And they gave me a couple choices. They gave me library science, theater, or speech communication. I said, oh, I liked my public speaking class. I'll put speech with it. And that was the writing on the wall. So what I did was, when I got into taking more of the communication classes, I liked it better than English, all right, than, literature and grammar and all those kinds of things. So what I did was I finished that degree. I went and taught high school English for 3 years in rural Central Florida. And I loved teaching. And so I thought, well, I'll go, you have to do, when you're a high school teacher, you have to do these in-service sorts of things, or you have to get a master's degree. So I said, okay, I'll check out a master's course. So I took one master's course from University of South Florida because it was in driving distance. And I went to I took this class, did okay in it, and I decided I would apply for graduate school. And I got in conditionally because my undergrad grades were not great. I always tell my students I graduated undergrad school with a 2.48 and went on to get a PhD. So don't start knocking the grades thing. So, but when I went for the master's degree, I had a teaching assistantship, and I was allowed to teach in the college classroom, taught public speaking. And I said, oh, I'm not teaching high school for the rest of my life because I loved teaching the college classroom. So I went back and taught high school for another year and got all my, ducks in a row, as we say in America, everything ready to go. And then I went to work on the PhD. And so that's how I ended up getting in. And the PhD was in communication, also just more interpersonal, intercultural types of things. Then when I finished that coursework, I went to work for the Episcopal Church for 2 years as a youth director. Hated the job. It's the worst thing. I had a micromanager for a boss, but I was in Shreveport, Louisiana, and there was a campus of Louisiana State University. And so I went over and talked to them, and they hired me to teach part-time. So I was working full-time at the church and part-time with a full-time load at the school. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to teach. So the next year I got offered a full-time position at the university, and that was the end of it. I didn't do anything except teach in university from that point on. I taught at LSU in the Shreveport campus for 2 years. Then I went to University of Richmond for 3 years. And I was a debate coach at that time, speech team coach. And then when I was in a position where I couldn't be tenured there. So when I finally finished the PhD, it took me a while to write the dissertation. I started job hunting, and there was a position open here at Appalachian State. And I came here as the debate coach and did that for 5 years, and then just went straight into teaching. I've been here, this is year 34. And I also went through a stint where I was interested in administration, but I never wanted to be the top level administrator. I never wanted to be the dean. I never wanted to be the chair. Okay. I like the roles where you're helping other people, but you don't have to do things like fire people or worry about the budget. So I was the associate dean for 6 years of our college, Fine and Applied Arts, and then I came back here and have been back in the department of, I think this is year 10 coming up in January. And then about 6 years ago, our assistant chair left, and I became the assistant chair. So I'm still doing some of the administrative stuff. But my first passion is the classroom. That's why this pandemic is awful for me, because I like to be in the classroom. I like to be there face to face. I do meet my class on Zoom, but it's not as good as meeting face to face. I get energized when I go into the classroom because I like the interaction with people. So,
But do you still get to go to the university? Because I think you are in your office right now,
I'm
right?
in my office. We're allowed to work in our offices. The students are not allowed in this area. You know, I think you know where our offices are. We're set off from the building. There are some face-to-face classes. I am 69 years old, and I did not want a chance because I'm in the high risk category because of my age. So we had a huge spike on campus back in the beginning of October. I was supposed to meet face to face some. I chose to do hybrid, but when we had this huge spike and there were over almost 300 students on campus with the virus, I said, nope, not meeting you face to face. So anyway, so I've missed it. I will still teach. I'm retiring at the end of this year, but I will still teach because I like to teach and, make a little extra money. What the heck? And doing something I love. And then I don't have to do all the other stuff that you have to do now, like committee work and those kinds of things.
So you're going to retire from Appalachian State University this year, in December?
Yes. And no, in June of next year.
June next year. So you still have like 6 or 7 months in upstate, and then you
until next June.
Until next June. Yeah. I remember that in the United States, it's it's upside down in terms of academic periods, academic time, because here in Chile, we finished the year in December. So that's the reason I was thinking of that.
No, we start in September or August and finish in we finish in May, but I'm going to teach summer school, so I'm going to teach until June 30th.
June 30th. I guess that you're going to miss a lot your time in Appalachian State University because you've been there 34 years, and I would say that you are one of the most beloved persons in campus. I know about that. we all love you as your students and ex-students, and it would be a great honor for us, I guess, I am sure of that you open a YouTube channel in the future.
Yeah, I can see
that'd be great. You can actually download this video and upload it to your YouTube channel. The provisory YouTube video.
I have a YouTube channel. It's just that you don't see the things because I posted to I hope because they're from my class. And they're really teaching. What it is it's announcements for the week and then a little bit of a summary over what I've done or what they've read, rather.
Are you going to move to Miami again, or are you going to still live in Boone?
I won't ever move back to Miami. I'm thinking I like the area of Savannah, Georgia. So I'm thinking about there. I like the area of northern Florida. There's an area called Amelia Island, which is up near Jacksonville. So there, I like St. Augustine area, and so but I won't move back to South Florida area. They can have that.
Do you think that
it's not the same as when I grew up there?
It's not the same.
No, it's different. I went to my 50th high school reunion, I guess a year and a half ago, and no, a year ago, and it was just, no.
No.
I don't like it down here anymore.
I think we have lost connection with Nina. I'm not sure. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah,
yes, I can hear you.
I just stopped talking.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Nina, yes, I can hear you now. Do you think that you're ever coming to visit me in Chile?
I would love to go to Chile, but I'm not going anywhere until this darn pandemic is gone.
Yeah, but I don't know. From here to, I don't know, in 2022, maybe you can come here, and you will always have a home here at our place in Valdivia, in Chile. please.
That sounds great.
That's awesome. I can show you around, and I'm happy to do that. So please.
Okay. All right.
Nina, I would like to take a question from the audience. Jose Tomas asks how globalization will affect communication studies.
I think that's a great question, Jose. I think that, one of the classes that Sergio mentions is intercultural communication. And I think that we have to pay attention to that all areas of the world communicate differently. And in fact, that's what we teach in that class. I'm teaching that class right now. Being able to be relativistic, which means I need to be able to pay attention to how people from different areas of the world communicate differently than I do if I'm going to be an effective communicator. So if I go to Chile, because Sergio just invited me, all right, my job is to understand how they communicate differently there. Right. And I will tell you that Americans are extremely individualistic. And we often don't think about that it's our job to learn about the other culture. So we show up in Chile and say, oh, you don't speak English? And it's like, oh, yeah, that would be kind of universalistic is what we call that. It's like everybody should do what we do. There's an old joke about Americans about if you know 3 languages, you're trilingual. If you know 2 languages, you're dual,
bilingual.
Duolingo. And 1 language, you're American. So, or United States. I know that the difference, when I take students overseas to Poland in the summer and they're adamant about making sure you say you're from the United States, we have a tendency to say we're American. Well, we have North America and we have South America. You are also, Sergio, you're also American. You're South American. All right.
South America.
But that's the ethnocentric type of thing that people from the United States have a tendency to do. But it's our job to pay attention to how they communicate differently. So that becomes the globalization. We are so connected technologically now that it's our job to know how people in other cultures communicate. And that's one of the classes that Sergio took with me that I'm big about that. Can you tell I've just given that lecture in class, and we're going to talk about it again tomorrow morning when we meet. It's like, all right, you need to take this and understand it's your job. It's your personal job to learn more about how people across the globe communicate. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
I'm sure that he's very thankful for that answer. Nina, I would like to ask you about your time in Appalachian State University. How has your path been as a college professor there in Boone?
Well, as you sent me some of the questions you would ask in advance, and I thought, well, I think bottom line, Sergio, is that I've been very lucky and very blessed. All right. I always quite think I'm not good enough, that I'm not maybe doing the best job I can do. And so I keep striving to do better. I've had success in the classroom from day one, from not just at Appalachian, but from the time I walked in the classroom when I taught high school in Florida back in '73. And I feel like my path has been lucky because up till today, all these, 100 years later, 50 years later, I graduated high school 50 years ago. In a couple of years, it'll be 50 years after college. So I've been able to function well in the classroom. I still get decent teaching evaluations. I do think that my students today are not as enamored with me as Sergio is, because I'm old school. I'm older. I want some decorum in my classroom. I think that students need to, think about the other people other than themselves, which is part of our individualistic culture, back to the globalization. Think first about themselves and then about other people. So, they do things sometimes that, for example, I won't allow cursing in my classroom. But in the United States, that seems to be a very common form of communication in the age group that's in college, whether it be Gen Z or Gen X or whomever, right? So I want that decorum in my classroom. And so I command it, I guess I should say, so that if they curse, I say, excuse me, and make them repeat themselves without the curse. And that's part of the communication teaching that Sergio was asking me about earlier, is that that's a human communication skill thing. There are times and places where I'm always telling them I curse. I just don't do it in the classroom. It's not the forum. It's not the place. I think I surprise them at times because I am fairly technologically smart. You name it, I've got it. I've got iPad over here, and Sergio and I were looking for. I don't have any earphones except that ones that are out. I have a wireless one that's out in the car, and I do have one at home because when we were doing everything from home last spring, I took my headset home, and so it's still there. So I don't know. I think my path I've been very lucky and very blessed. So that's all.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. And when you were telling this about your experiences, I remember that you were one of the first professors in 2012 who was speaking about gender issues. Nobody was talking about gender in 2012, 8 years ago, and now it seems to me that everyone is talking about gender in the United States, in Chile, in Europe, everywhere. And but 8 years ago, gender was a very academic issue as well. But now it's crazy because there are like 100 genders now, so nobody knows anything. There are many people that say it's like, I'm gender fluid, I'm gender queer, I'm what drag queen. I don't know. Like, it's great.
The pronouns. I don't know if they're doing that in Chile about the
pronouns. Sure, they're it's crazy now. So I'm so glad that I'm not there anymore in 2020. So it has been crazy as well in university campuses in Chile because professors are not allowed to teach their classes anymore in the same way that it was like 5 years ago, because students, the new generation of students, are very, very I would say crying babies. I would say in Chile. I'm going to talk about Chile. Yes, I see as well, because I follow the news in the States and Canada.
I don't do well with that.
Yes, it's just like
grow up.
Yeah, grow up. You have to grow up.
Don't have your mama call me.
Exactly. Yeah, because the world is tough. You have to be tough, and campuses are like are very protective. And I've heard that in the States and also in Canada, they have a thing called safe spaces. So it's like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And people in the States and in Canada and in Chile right now, professors are very wary of what they can say or they cannot say, because students are with cell phones and they can record any moment, and they can take things out of context with the phones. And so it's not like 8 years ago professors could do their classes without problems. Now they are very wary. They're very self-conscious about what they can say, they cannot say, what is politically correct to say or not. It's crazy. I wouldn't like to be a professor right now in 2020.
Well, you have to be careful. You really do.
Yes, absolutely. And also in media right now. In Chile, as a journalist, you have to be careful in your words, in your speech, in everything. It's crazy. Like, I don't know in the States, but now in Chile, freedom of expression is a very dangerous thing. You cannot say whatever you want to say, whatever comes to your mind, because there's a sort of censorship, I would say. cancel culture. You know, people, you cannot say what you could say in 2012. Now it's craziness. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I wouldn't be a college professor now.
Right. Sorry, my phone slipped there.
Nina, what would be your advice for future communication major students?
I would say choose an area about which you have passion, something you care about, because that will make it more fun to begin with, but you'll also do a better job at that. So for example, in communication, try to discover which area of communication interests you the most. It might be the human communication area. It might be broadcasting. It might be journalism, etc. So choose something about which you have passion and then show that passion, right? Share that passion with people. Let them know how important you find this to be for you.
Great. And I have my final question before I ask you if you want to give us some other advices. Can you tell us about this great book, Nonverbal Communication Studies and Applications? And that's the same book, right?
On Amazon.
In Amazon, yeah, people can buy that on Amazon. Yeah, I can leave the link here in the description so people can go and buy the book. Okay.
Well, they'll buy that one. I don't know if that one's still available, but this one is. This is the brand new one. And they have them. There's an ebook for it too. So, I love to talk about how this happened. Professors get asked to review textbooks for publishing companies. And I was asked to review a nonverbal textbook. This is back in, probably 1999, maybe 2000. And I sent a message back to them and said, this book is awful. It's like, it's not written where students reading it will understand what these authors are saying. So the publishing company emailed me back and said, how would you like to be the third author on this? In other words, I do the rewrite on this. So I said, oh, that would be interesting. So I had to rewrite one chapter out of the book. I guess I had to do two. I had to do the introduction in one chapter, the way I would write it. And then he shared it with these two colleagues of mine. These were friends of mine that had written the book. I didn't know that when I reviewed the book who had written it, but it turned out it was two people that I knew and knew really well. One of them and the other one fairly well. So they liked what I wrote, and the rest is history. So I did the rewrite on the 4th edition. Then the 5th edition, I did the rewrite, and I got a little bit of help from them. Then when we got to the 6th edition, I didn't get any help from them at all. It was all me. I did the rewrite. I believe the one that you have there is the 5th edition.
The 5th edition.
And then this time, my co-authors had always been saying, Nina Jo, you need to take our name off it. And I thought, well, no, I wouldn't have this book if it wasn't for you two. So I don't want to take your name off of it because it's, you had the basis of this book to begin with. But by the 4th rewrite, it's almost all me that's in it. There's a few things of the history. And so finally on this 7th edition, I said, okay, I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to take your names off and it will just be my book. And it came out this summer. Now, I will tell you that I'm very upset about it because I finished it on February 14th, 15th, something like that. And then we know what happened in March, right? So many things non-verbally have changed since the pandemic. For example, this.
Yes. Wow.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Face and eye. Cannot see the face from here down. All right. Touch changed. Space changed. So I've got an interview coming up at some point with a TV station down in Greensboro to ask about what do you do non-verbally now that we don't have full facial expression? And people aren't allowed to touch, and space is, 6 feet apart. I guess in Chile it's probably 2 meters, but sorry.
1 meter.
There we go, global. So I would, if I were to finish it after all of this started, I would have paid more attention to how contextual. I do pay attention a great deal in here about how contextual nonverbal communication is. In the context we're in right now, we have to be, for example, usually we looked at face and eye behaviors to find out how people are feeling and whether they're happy or sad or whatever. But we don't have that. We've just got the eyes. So you need to learn to watch in the forehead, all right, as well as the eyes. And then the whole body language. You can tell when people are down, that their whole body language, which is called kinesics, all right, that it's communicating something different than when you are positive or up. So anyway, so that's the story of the book.
And one of the things I love about this book, particular book that I have here, is your dedicatory to me.
There you go. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's great. It says, Sergio, you have been, yes, you have been a great student. Thank you very much. I hope you'll remember your time here with this. This is a great book. I highly recommend this for every student in any area, actually, because we all need this knowledge. We all need this knowledge.
Right.
So, Nina, I would, before we say goodbye to this beautiful interview, and I will want to invite you maybe in the future to speak about other topics if you want. This is your space. You can talk whatever you want here. And when you are out of the university, and you can say whatever you want right after that, you have a house here in this channel. Okay?
Oh,
Please. I would like to ask you one more thing before you go. What's going on in the United States right now with elections? It's crazy what we hear around here about the states.
And I would agree. And I don't want to. We're not allowed to take a political position in our classes, but you all can see that this is crazy. There wasn't in my personal opinion, and in most people's personal opinion, there was no fraud. And every time that this happens, all right, what we get is more people thinking, all right, how crazy we are. Every time they come up with another thing, that over the weekend, the one of the largest states for electoral votes, the judge threw out the case because there's no evidence. My nephew works worked the polls in Wisconsin, which is another one that they're contesting, and they're doing a recount right now, but it's not going to change. And here's the thing about the history of the United States. When somebody calls for a recount, it almost always is not to their advantage. They'll come up with more votes for example, in this case, it's President Trump who's trying to call for all these recounts and everything. But what's likely to happen if history plays out is that he will end up with less votes than what he thinks he has right now. So, and because we use this electoral college system, which just means that each state has a certain amount of electoral votes, it's an antiquated system that should be done away with. So either way, President-elect Joe Biden has the popular vote by more than 5 million, and he's got the electoral college votes by he's got over 300 now. So anyway, so yeah, this is not a great time to look at our politics.
Absolutely. Nina, would you like to say goodbye to our friends right now for the moment, and what message you would like to share with us? We're talking about people between 18 and 25 or maybe 29.
Okay. I would just say, chase your dream. All right. Because and find something you're passionate about and things that you think that you would like to do with your life, and then go about that. And don't be afraid to change your mind. Because as we go through life and careers and those sorts of things, life changes. You may change your mind about what you want to do, but be passionate about whatever you choose to do.
Thank you very much, Nina, for being here
Either way.
today, Nina.
Either.
And I just want to send you love from here, from Chile,
Thank you.
to you,
Thank you.
and God
And
bless
you can have
you.
love here from Appalachian State.
Thank you. A big
Cyber
hug.
hug.
Ciao, ciao. Gracias.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.